I have been editing videos on this M1 MacBook Air for 3 years straight. So can it actually handle video editing in 2026? Here's my honest review. Over these 3 years, I have figured out a workflow that makes this machine surprisingly capable, even today. In the next few minutes, I am going to show you exactly how I do it, the storage strategy, the editing workflow, and how I manage performance to get the best out of this machine. Let's get into it. Storage strategy. This is honestly the one most people never think about. Storage and file management. The base M1 MacBook Air comes with 256GB of internal storage, which sounds reasonable until you actually start editing. Footage files are large, project files, preview files, cache data. It's all adds up faster than you had expect. And here is something most people don't realize. A nearly full SSD is a slow SSD. When your drive is almost at capacity, your system slows down noticeably. Not because the chip is weak, but because the drive simply doesn't have enough room to operate efficiently. So the natural solution most people go for is an external SSD. Totally makes sense. More storage, problem solved. Except, and this is where the mistake happens, they start editing directly from the external drive, and then they can't figure out why everything feels sluggish. Let me explain what's actually happening. The M1 MacBook Air supports Thunderbolt 3, which is capable of transfer speeds up to 40GB per second. That is seriously fast. But most budget external SSDs that people actually buy and use, they run on USB 3.1, which maxes out at around 10GB per second. That's 1/4 of the speed your Mac can handle. So when your timeline is trying to pull high resolution footage in real time from a drive running at 1/4 of the available speed, lag is simply the natural outcome. The math doesn't lie. So here is the storage strategy I have been using for years, and it works consistently well. Your internal SSD has one job: your current project, the project you are working on right now. Everything else, complete projects, archive footage, old files, stock media, all of that goes on the external SSD. This keeps your internal drive clean, fast, and with plenty of headroom to operate properly. And because your Mac is always reading your active footage from the fastest possible source, the difference in performance is immediately noticeable. Timeline scrubbing feels smoother, playback is more consistent, and your system overall just feels more responsive. It's a simple habit, but the impact it has on your day-to-day editing experience is genuinely significant. Smart editing workflow. This one is completely changed how I approach every single project. And it's all about the order in which you edit. Most people open a new project, dump all their footage in, start cutting randomly, add effects, try to color grade, and then wonder why everything is grinding to a halt. I did the exact same thing when I first started, and it made the M1 Air feel completely overwhelmed. This fix isn't a faster machine. This fix is a smarter sequence. Let me walk you through it. Step 1. Always start with your A-roll, your main talking head footage. Cut it down, trim the pauses, build your story, get the structure of your video locked in before you touch anything else. No B-roll, no effects, no color grading at this stage. Just the raw narrative, clean and tight. This is important because at this stage, your timeline is as light as it ever going to be. Your machine is handling the minimum possible workload, and you get to focus entirely on the most important thing, the actual content and pacing of your video. Step 2. Once you have even a rough cut going, immediately go into your playback settings and drop your resolution to half. I know it looks a little soft, but you are editing, not screening a finished film. Half resolution takes an enormous load off your processor and makes playback dramatically smoother. And a quick but important note here, the M1 chip handles 1080p footage really well. It was genuinely designed for that kind of workload, but 4K pushes it noticeably harder. If you are working with 4K footage, half resolution playback isn't just helpful, it's pretty much essential if you want a smoother editing experience on this machine. Step 3. Color grading. And this is where most people completely break their own workflow without realizing it. The common approach is to edit everything fast. All your cuts, B-roll, text, transitions, effects, and then layer color grading on top of fully loaded complex timeline. And then they are frustrated when the whole thing slows to a core. Here is what I do instead. Once my A-roll is cut and my basic story structure is in place, I do my color correction and color grading right then, before the timeline gets complicated. I add my adjustment layers and dial my looks. The machine handles handles this so much more comfortably when the timeline is still clean and relatively simple. But here's the workflow trick that takes this even further. Once the color grading is done, I turn those grading layers off. They are still there, completely intact, but they are not actively processing or rendering. The timeline immediately becomes lighter. The machine has far less to compute. Step 4. Now I finish the rest of the edit. B-roll goes in, text animation, transitions, sound designs, all the finishing work. And because those color grading layers are disabled, playback stays smooth throughout. I can actually work without constantly fighting the machine. Now here is a quick practical tip that I wish someone had told me earlier. And this one is especially for Premiere Pro users. When you start adding heavier effects or transitions to your timeline, you might notice the timeline introduced turning red above certain clips, and playback those sections becomes laggy or starts dropping frames. The red bar is basically Premiere telling you I'm struggling to play this back in real time. This fix is simple and it works really well. First, mark your in point by pressing the letter I on your keyboard right where the red section begins. Then move to where it ends and press O to mark your out point. Once you have selected that portion, just press enter and Premiere will render just that specific section of your timeline. It takes a little bit of time depending on how heavy the effects are, but once it's done, the red bar turns green and playback becomes noticeably smoother and more fluid. You don't have to render the whole timeline, just the parts that are giving you trouble. On a machine like M1 Air, this simple habit makes a real difference, especially when your timeline starts getting busier towards the end of a project. Alright, continue on. Step 5. Right before the export, I turn the color grading layers back on. Everything snaps back exactly as I designed it. I do on final review and then I export. Yes, it seems like extra step the first time you read it, but once you do it 2 or 3 times, it becomes completely natural, and the difference in your editing experience is night and day. Heat and performance management. This is honestly, out of everything I am sharing today, this might be the one that people overlook the most. Heat management. It has no fan, completely fanless design. Under normal everyday use, browsing, documents, light tasks, this is genuinely impressive. Silent, efficient and elegant. But video editing is not normal everyday use. When you push this machine hard, sustained heavy timelines, long render sessions, complex projects, the chip generates heat. And when it gets hot, the Mac deliberately slows down itself to protect the hardware. This is called thermal throttling. This is why after editing for an hour straight, a timeline that was playing back perfectly fine suddenly starts dropping frames and stuttering. The chip didn't get weaker, it just got warm and it's protecting itself. I work in intervals. Around 25 to 30 minute focused intense editing, then a genuine 5 to 10 minute break. I step away, let the machine sit ideal. When I come back, it feels noticeably more responsive. Second, I clear my cache regularly, especially on longer projects. Every major application builds up cache files as you work. Premiere Pro, DaVinci Resolve, Final Cut Pro, they all do it. And for long complex projects, this cache can grow massive and silently drag performance down over time. Go into your application preference, find the cache settings and clear out it. It takes 30 seconds and it makes a real difference. Third, before any final render or export, I take a deliberate 10 to 15 minutes break. I close everything, step away completely and let the machine cool down fully before I hit export. A machine that starts a render already warm will throttle partway through the process. Your render times increase. In some cases, you can even get errors or incomplete exports. But a machine that starts cool, it can sustain its peak performance all the way through. Your export finishes faster and more reliable every single time. A cool machine is a faster machine. It's genuinely that simple. So after 3 years, here is my honest take. The M1 MacBook Air Air is not a powerhouse. It was never marketed as one, but it is a genuinely capable machine. And in 2026, with the right workflow, it absolutely holds up for real video editing. The creators struggle on this machine are usually fighting against it. Editing without a clear workflow, filling the drive capacity, pushing through long sessions without breaks, and then blaming the hardware. The creators who thrive on it have learned to work with it. They manage their storage intentionally, they edit in a smart, structured sequence. They respect the thermal limits of a fanless machine. I want to say something directly to anyone watching this who is editing on a budget machine right now, whether that's an M1 Air or something else entirely. Your gear is not killing on your content, your workflow is. And workflow is something you can improve starting today for free. If this video give you even one thing that's going to make your editing session less frustrating, please subscribe, because everything I share on this channel comes from real experience with real hardware. Drop a comment below and tell me which of these 3 ways you are going to try first. I read every single comment and I genuinely want to know what works for you. Thanks for watching this video. I will see you in the next one.